Dear students, after studying this module, you shall be able to reflect on Fromm's life history, identify the cornerstone of humanistic psychoanalysis, review the idea of human needs and mechanism of escape as proposed by Fromm, understand the structure of personality in terms of character, orientations, personality disorders, and psychotherapy, and you will also be able to evaluate humanistic psychoanalysis. Erich Fromm was trained in Freudian psychoanalysis as persuaded by ideas of Karl Marx, Karen Horney, and other socially oriented theorists. Fromm was a social critic, biblical scholar, psychotherapist, cultural anthropologist, philosopher, and psychobiographer. He created a personality theory that highlighted the effect of socio-biological factor, history, economics, and class structure. Despite being a psychological school of thought, humanistic psychoanalysis takes in account the historical and cultural perspective, and it deals with characteristics mutual to a culture than peculiar to an individual. Fromm's elementary views was that contemporary people are not connected with prehistoric unification with nature as well as with one another. Nevertheless, possess the power of reasoning, foresight, and imagination. With the presence of rational thought process and lack of animal instinct makes them freaks of the universe. The reason behind an individual feeling lonely, isolated, and homeless is self-awareness. For escaping from these feelings, people endeavor to reunite with their fellow human beings and subsequently nature. Taking an evolutionary view of humanity, Fromm suggested that evolution resulted in the loss of animal instinct and development of brain, which allows the individual to become aware of oneself, imagine, plan, and doubt. This amalgamation of weaker instinct with highly developed brain makes human different from one another. Although the rise of capitalism has provided us with leisure time and individual freedom, it has also led to feeling isolated, anxious, and powerless. Fromm purported that freedom is now not cost effective. The isolation created by capitalism is now agonizing and has left people with the following two options. First, of escaping from freedom into interpersonal dependency. Second, of moving to self-realization through productive love and work. From theory of humanistic psychoanalysis. From basic assumptions is that personality of an individual can be studied by taking into consideration human history. The discussion of the human situation must precede that of personality. Psychology must be based on anthropological, philosophical concept of human existence. Humans lack potent character of adjusting to changes in the world. Instead, they possess the ability reasoning, a circumstances from titled Human Dilemma. The reason behind why people experience this basic dilemma is that apart from the fact that people can separate themselves from the nature, they possess the ability to acknowledge their own self as isolated beings. Therefore, the capacity of reasoning becomes both a blessing and a curse. Not only it helps in surviving, but also puts an endeavor to resolve basic insoluble dichotomies or existential dichotomies as labeled by Fromm as being rooted in an individual's very existence. Humans can only act in response to these dichotomies relative to their cultural and personal baggage, but cannot do away with three dichotomies. First, dichotomy between life and death. Awareness of one's life and reasoning tell us that we would die, but people attempt to disprove this dichotomy by suggesting life after death, a futile effort as it fails to change the reality that our lives comes to an end with the death. Dichotomy that humans are gifted to conceptualize the goal of complete self-realization, but incomplete awareness of the life not being long enough to reach this goal. If an individual's lifespan was equivalent to that of mankind, only then it would have been possible for him to participate in the human development occurring in the historical process. Humans tried to solve this dichotomy by imagining their own historical period is the ultimate accomplishment of humanity, while others claim life after death. Dichotomy that people are ultimately alone without the threshold for isolation, despite awareness of themselves as separate individuals, they desire happiness in union with their own fellow beings. It is impossible to completely solve this dichotomy, leaving individuals to make that endeavor or run the risk of being insane. Human needs. The basic human motivation is by physiological need of hunger, sex, safety as they have evolved from animals. But satisfying these needs does not lead to resolution of their human dilemmas. The unique human needs move individuals towards a reunion with the natural world. From Fromm, this existential need surfaced as offshoot of the search for answers for existence and avoidance of insanity during the evaluation of human culture. According to Fromm, a mentally healthy individual find answers to their existence which wholly relate to their total human need, while neurotic or insane individuals can't. Simply people who are capable of finding better ways to reunite the world of solving the human needs of relatedness, transcendence, rootedness, a sense of identity, and a frame of orientation are healthy individuals. Relatedness. It is the drive for uniting with another individual or institution that can be achieved through the three basic ways. First is submission, then power, and love. Fromm considered love to be the sole way of uniting an individual with the world, yet maintain originality and integrity. Love was defined as a process of uniting with someone or something outside one's own self on the condition of maintaining uniqueness and integrity of oneself. Transcendence. The role of creatures does not satisfy the humans. It is imperative for us to transcend the animal state and affect environment in significant ways. According to Fromm, the innate tendency of achieving such superiority in constructive ways exists. Human consent or approval is not taken into consideration and are thrown into and removed from the world. The urge rising above a passive and accidental existence into the realm of purposefulness and freedom is defined as the need for transcendence. Achieving one's positive potential is not an easy task. Along with the genetically determined impulse of preserving ourselves against threats of attacking, we also have the ability of non-organically motivated destructiveness which has no rational defensive purpose. If normal personality development is blocked, say, for example, by pathogenic parental behaviors, then transcendence may be sought through malignant aggression. The need for establishing roots in order to get the feeling of being at home again in the world is a niche that has evolved as an outcome of losing home of the natural world. Realizing that we are homeless and rootless make one feel isolated and helpless, which is unbearable. Productively rootedness is sort of becoming fully born by weaning from the orbit of the mother. That is why being active and creative when it comes to relating to the world in order to become whole or integrated. Individuals using the non-productive strategy of fixation have a stubborn unwillingness of moving beyond the protection and secure environment provided by one's mother. Rootedness could be observed in the growth of human species phylogenetically. Like Freud, Fromm believed incestuous desire to be universal, but did not agree with Freud's belief of being essentially sexual. Fromm in 1955 contended that incestuous feelings were grounded in the deep-seated craving to remain in or to return to the all-enveloping womb or to all-nourishing breast. Sense of identity. It refers to an individual's ability to be conscious of oneself as a separate entity is indispensable as after being detached from the nature. We still require to possess the ability of saying, I am I, or I am the subject of my action. In 1981, he believes that primeval and medieval individuals saw themselves as only members of a social group with strong ties. From drawing from Marx, suggested economic and political freedom of people is due to the rise of capitalism. However, this freedom has provided a true sense of I to a small minority of people. Most people's identity surface from their attachment with another individual or institution like nation, religion, occupation, or social group. The new herd identity that is required to develop solely rests on the sense of an unquestionable belongingness to the crowd. Healthy people, in order to maintain sanity through identity, have a minimal need to adapt to the herd and to give up their sense of self. An authentic sense of identity provides an individual with freedom and individuality which they do not have to surrender in order to fit into society. However, neurotic individuals attempt to accord themselves with other individuals or to social or political institutions. Frame of orientation. It is needed by humans so as to make their ways through the world since they are split off from nature. The lack of such a frame could lead to confusion and an inability of acting purposefully and consistently. Organization of the various stimuli that encroach individuals could be do through this frame, making it is easier to understand the idea behind various events and phenomena. People lacking a reliable frame of orientation will nonetheless struggle with making out of sense of such events. Each person has a frame of reference which is anything consistent to common sense while anything at odds is evaluated as crazy or unreasonable. People can go to any length to attain and retain a frame of orientation. They end up by following illogical philosophies promoted by fanatical politicians and religious leaders. The frame of orientation is like map of road, and this map must have a goal. Human possess the mental capacity of imagining a substitute path to follow. Having a goal is necessary as it not only keeps people from going insane but also allows people on focusing all of their energy in a single direction, enabling them to transcend their isolated existence and granting meaning to their lives. The burden of freedom and mechanism of escape. According to Fromm, humans are torn from the nature, nevertheless, they still share the natural world, subjected with physical limitation like any other animal. Humans, being the self aware animal with the capability of imagining and reasoning, they are often referred to as the freak of the universe. Though the ability to reason is why humans feel isolated and lonely, it is also responsible for uniting individuals with the world. With political and economic freedom, people gradually became more isolated. For instance, people of the Middle Ages had comparatively less personal freedom. During that time, roles were prescribed which made the individuals of the society secure, certain, and dependable. Further, when more freedom was obtained of moving socially and geographically, this made people free from the security of a fixed position in the world, no longer tying them to a particular region, social order, or any occupation per se, becoming more and more detached from the roots and secluded from one another. A comparable experience exists on a personal level. As a child becomes mature, they gradually become more independent of their mother, thus getting space and liberty to put across their individuality, to move about without supervision, to decide their clothes, friends, etc. Simultaneously, they feel the burden of freedom, meaning that the children getting freedom from the security of being one with the mother. Both individually and socially, the burden of freedom causes basic anxiety. That is the feeling of being alone in the world, which makes people attempt to run from freedom using variety of escape mechanisms. These mechanisms operate at individual as well as collective level. Authoritarians. Authoritarianism was defined as the propensity of giving up the freedom of one's individual self and blending with somebody or something outside oneself with an aim of acquiring the strength that the individual lacks. It can result in machoism or sadism. Contrasted with machoism, sadism is irrational and more socially damaging. Masochism may aims to join the self with a more powerful individual or institution as the person feels weak, powerless, and inferior. This phenomenon is frequently camouflaged as love or loyalty with zero positive contribution to independence and authenticity. Sadism aimed at basically reduce anxiety by uniting an individual with another individual or institution. According to Fromm, there are three kinds of sadistic tendencies: the want of making other individual depend on oneself and gaining authority over the weak. Second, the urge of exploiting others and taking advantage of them, using them for one's profit or pleasure. Third, the need of seeking other sufferings physically or psychologically. Destructiveness. It stems when one feels alone, isolated, and powerless, not depending upon a constant relationship with another individual. Somewhat, it tries to do away with other individuals. This technique of destroying people, objects with an aim to restore the lost feeling of power is used at both individual and national level as a mechanism of escape. Though in this process, destructive individuals eliminate the outer world and come to possess a perverted form of isolation. Conformity. People who conform tend to give up their individuality and become whatsoever other person wants them to become to escape the burden of freedom. Like robots, their reactions is predictable and mechanical to the whims of other, appear stiff and automated, seldom articulated their opinion and cling to expected standards of behavior. Modern era individuals have freedom from external bond. They act as they wish, but they lack the knowledge of how they feel, but they want or think, which results in them conforming like automatons to an unknown authority and adopting an inauthentic self. According to Fromm, it is important for people to break out of his cycle of conforming and feeling powerless through attaining self-realization or positive freedom. The bondage of isolation and powerlessness is not the only outcome of political economic freedom and development. An individual can feel and not lonely, critical, and but also filled with doubts, independence, and yet an integral part of mankind. Positive freedom could be attained by a natural and absolute manifestation of rational and emotional potentialities. Positive freedom is a process where individual can overcome the fear of isolation, unite the external environment, and maintain individuality. From structure of personality. Character orientation. According to Fromm, personality can be discovered by one's character orientation, how an individual relates to one another individual and things. According to Fromm, personality is a sum of innate and acquired psychic ability, which are characteristics of one individual's making every one of us unique. One of the key acquired quality of personality is character, which according to Fromm is a surrogate for the lacking instinct. Character instinct determine human action. Further, Fromm purports that if human had to think before acting, then the action would be inconsistent and incompetent, but humans can behave both consistently and efficiently by acting in line with one's character trait. Individuals relate to the world when they obtain and utilize things. When they relate to self and other, this process of relating to things and individuals can either be non-productively or productively. Non-productive orientation. Individuals obtain things by any four non-productive orientation: passively by receiving or getting them, through exploitation or taking things by power, hoarding objects or marketing or engage of things. Fromm used the term non-productive to propose tactics that are useful in moving people closer to self-realization and positive freedom. Non-productive orientation are nonetheless not totally negative, rather have both negative and positive facets. Personality is always a combination of several orientation, although is dominated by one. Productive orientation. The singular productive orientation consists of three facets: work, love, reason. Productive individuals work toward a continuing realization of their potential and positive freedom, becoming the healthiest of all character types. Through productive activity of work, love and thought can people unite with others world while retaining uniqueness and individuality. Healthy people consider work to be a creative way of expressing oneself, not particularly as an end in itself. Productive love is regarded by the four qualities of love: caring, respecting, knowledge, and responsibility. In addition to these, healthy individuals possess biophilia, obsessive love of life and everything alive. Biophilic individuals want to contribute in growth of life of other individuals, flora, fauna, ideas, and cultures. Biophilic people wish to influence other individuals by showing love, reason, and example of not force. According to Fromm, a healthy individual is a blend of all five characters orientations. Healthy individuals' survival is based on one's capability to receive, take, preserve, exchange things, and to work, think, and love effectively. Personality disorders. Unhealthy individuals face problems with their ability of working, thinking, and loving productively. According to Fromm, psychological disturbed individuals are unable of loving and establishing union with other individuals. He discussed three severe personality disorder: necrophilia, malignant narcissism, and incestuous symbiosis. Some pathological persons have all three personality disorder, and that is they are fascinated by death, take delight in put an end to those individuals who are regarded as inferior, and share a neurotic symbiotic relationship with one's mother. Such individuals develop a syndrome of decay, which is the opposite of syndrome of growth, which has biophilia, love, and positive freedom. Psychotherapy. Fromm agreed to most tenets and procedures of Freudian psychoanalysis like free association, dream interpretation, transference, resistance, counter-transference, working through to bring unconscious to consciousness. According to Fromm, Freud's psychoanalysis is not appropriate for everyone and cannot guarantee improvement. Fromm preferred transference neurosis and wanted the analyst to perceive as an authentic human being by the patient. He favored the Alderian technique to early recollection and shared Horney's take that insight must be achieved on an intellectual as well as emotional level to be effective. Analytical theory aims to at assisting the patient swap from selected non-productive frame of orientation with the productive one. According to Fromm, the reason behind a patient's visit to therapy is to seek satisfaction of their basic five human needs. That is why it is necessary to build it on a personal relationship between patient and therapist. As truthful contact is crucial to therapeutic growth, it is important for the therapist to relate to the patient with total attention and genuineness. The relatedness will regenerate the patient by uniting with other individuals. Even though transference and counter-transference would exist in this relationship, involvement of the two real individuals with one another would be there. As a part of his endeavor to attain shared communication, from in this belief that dreams, fairy tales, and myths are symbolic and universal language, asked patients to disclose their dreams. In essence, from psychological prescriptions are not for the people, rather for the society. He warned that fading global food supply, deterioration of the environment, and from pollution and the propagation of nuclear weapon threaten the survival of our species. To form a radical remodeling of society is the only way to disaster. Summary. People are disconnected from the early union with the nature and with one individuals. However, they possess the ability to reason and imagine. The reason behind an individual's feeling lonely, isolated, and homeless is self-awareness. For escaping from these feelings, people endeavor to reunite with their fellow human beings and subsequently nature. Fromm acknowledged the significance of unconscious processes, repression, and defense mechanism, rejecting Freudian idea of id, ego, and superego, and did not support any other structural model. The survival of the healthy individual is based on the capacity to receive, take, preserve, engage things, and to work, think, and love effectively. Unhealthy individuals face problems with their ability to working, thinking, and loving productively. Severe personality disorder motivated by the syndrome of decay are necrophilia, malignant narcissism, and incestuous symbiosis. According to Fromm, the reason behind a patient's visit to therapy is to seek satisfaction of their basic five human needs. That is why it is necessary to build it on a personal relationship between patient and therapist. From psychotherapy aims at establishing a union with patients so as to reunite with the world. To Fromm, a radical remodeling of society is the only way to avoid disaster. Fromm's proposal of social change seemed excessive and unscientific.